My mission today was to check the compression before pulling the engine. So the engine's still in the car, but the compression is checked. And we'll talk about the results in a few minutes. Well, it's black fly season in New Hampshire, so if you see anything like flying in my eye, that's what it is. They're crazy right now. I'm going to do a compression check. So before I do that, I'm going to just drop the oil that's been sitting in this engine for 15 years and put in some fresh stuff. I don't know if it's really important, but it just seems like a bad idea to be cranking away on it with that crummy oil, and maybe I'll get a better, more accurate compression read with fresh oil. So when I was young, working on Volkswagens, I worked on the floor, concrete floor with a jack, and later on, when I was working in an independent Volkswagen shop, we worked on the floor. Now, I'm an adult, and I have access to a lift, thanks to my father-in-law. So this is really nice. So when we do an oil change, we don't have to get on our hands and knees or lay on our back. We just press the magic button. Up in the air, we can see the oil drain plate. So unlike other type 1s that I've worked on, there's no drain plug. I guess you just take that whole plate off. Kind of messy, but no problem. No oil filter on these cars either. There's a strainer just on the other side of that plate. You can get oil filter kits that either plumb in through the oil cooler lines if you remote the oil cooler, and they also make one that hangs off of a special oil pump. I'd probably not do either of those things on this. We'll just stick with the tried and true strainer method and just frequent oil changes. Won't be driving it that much anyway, summer car. All right, got the nuts loosened up and the plate just kind of hung down before I could get all the nuts off, so I don't want to reach up there anymore. So just gonna let it drain like that for a few minutes till it stops dripping, and we'll get that plate off. With the plate off, we can see the strainer, and with luck it'll just come right out. I said with luck it'll just come right out. Nope. Okay, well, we'll have to work on that a little bit. I'll need 2 hands, so I'll put the camera down and hopefully we'll get it out with 2 hands. I've had a change of heart about taking that strainer out because it's going to get all bent up and everything, and I don't have the replacement yet to put it in, and I do want to put oil back in the car, so I'm just going to clean things up and put it back together and get oil in it, because this oil, I'm going to drop it again anyway. On the back side of that strainer, I'm sorry, the sump plate, so this is the crud that was up in there. It's, I don't know what it is. It's just crap, crust, who knows. It was all kind of collecting on one side, and the way the engine's hanging crooked, maybe that was the right-hand side of the car. My compression tester here. This kind of compression tester works with both the 10 millimeter and the whatever the bigger size spark plugs are. So for the Volkswagen, I took one plug out just to check, but that's the smaller size. So we'll thread that into each cylinder sequentially, crank the engine 10 times, make a note of the compression, and then proceed from there. Okay, we're ready to go with that compression check. The spark plugs are out. I got the compression gauge installed on cylinder number 1. I took the cap off and pulled the rotor out of the distributor just so I wouldn't get any spark. The fuel line is hooked up, but there's no, like, my fuel pump is actually not pumping any fuel because that connection's all dry and plugged up. So, I mean, if we were really cranking an engine here, we'd probably take a few extra safety precautions just to make sure we don't have any fuel flying around in the engine compartment. I'm satisfied that this is safe, so I will proceed. If you've been paying attention, you may have caught that I skipped a step here. Can anybody guess what it is? I gotta put that in that dirt. Oh, let's get that oil in. Oh, I found a place to stick the iPhone where you can see the compression gauge. This is on number 3. Let's see what we got. Okay, around 75 psi, maybe closer to 80. I really don't know what it should be. That seems low, but that's the others were 70 and 75. I'm going in firing order, so 1, 4, 3, 70, 75, and I'll say 80 on that one. Let's see what number 2 is. Okay, here's the results of our compression tests. See a question mark next to cylinder number 2. I've got a threading issue. I can't seem to get that compression tester to thread in there, and I may have cross-threaded the cylinder head. I don't know. I'm a little bit annoyed with myself because I didn't pay attention to how many turns it took before it got tight. It should have taken a lot more, and I probably, you know, took it past the point of no return. So maybe it wasn't me after all. I've got the 2 spark plugs from the right-hand side, and you can see that the sealing washer is not crushed down on one of those spark plugs, and that happens to be the spark plug that came out of number 2. So that probably means that thread is screwed up in the head, and the spark plug was never tight in that cylinder. It could just never get down to crush that washer. So, okay, well, I feel a little better that I didn't screw it up. A little better. I'll just add that to the list of things to look at. All right, I got the spark plugs back in it. That one on number 2 still isn't feeling perfectly right, but it's just as good as it was when I found it. So, got everything put back together. I gave it 2 pumps on the carburetor because I have no throttle pedal right now to do it from the car. I'm just gonna hit the key and make sure everything runs good. The compression check went reasonably well, except for the low compression numbers, but is that a problem? I don't know. I've been debating now what to do, you know, buy new heads, buy an engine rebuild kit. I think I'm just gonna, when I pull the engine, I might pull that head off and have a look, and you know, I gotta pull that head off and repair the threads. It's probably the right way to do it, and when I pull that head off, I can get a better look and see if maybe the piston rings are packed with rust or something. Maybe it's something simple. It could also be my compression gauge is off. I honestly didn't check it. It could also be that the engine was cold when I did the compression test. You know, the engines are so easy to pull on these cars. There's really nothing wrong with just putting it all back together and running it until it, you know, starts smoking or it quits or it won't start, whatever. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Anyway, I've got video footage in the vault. I've got new parts coming in, so I'm going to do a new parts episode here soon. And I did some work on the pedal assembly today and had a breakthrough, but I will put out a full pedal assembly video to show how that all came apart and how it all goes back together. Until then, I hope you enjoy the episodes, and we'll see you